Hello everyone, my name is Chris Edwards, and today I'm going to be discussing Benjamin Banneker and his contributions to mathematics. Specifically, I'm going to discuss Banneker's life, including his family, Banneker's contributions in the areas of engineering, astronomy, and surveying, and his contributions to the fight for civil rights. To briefly introduce him, Benjamin Banneker was a famous mathematician and astronomer in the 18th century, and he was also the first African American mathematician and astronomer. Benjamin Banneker was born November 9, 1731, in Baltimore County, Maryland, one of the more tolerant and accepting colonies, with freedom of religion. Banneker was a free black man, as his parents, Robert and Mary, were both free. Banneker's family consisted of his parents, Robert and Mary, his three sisters, and his grandmother, Molly Welsh, a white woman from England who freed and married Banneker's grandfather, Banneker. Banneker, who likely died before Benjamin Banneker's birth, was an African prince before being enslaved. Banneker's family owned and operated a tobacco farm, which Banneker had to help out on. This severely limited Banneker's time to study, and is the reason why Benjamin Banneker had little formal education. The little formal education he did receive came from a local Quaker school. Because he didn't have much time for formal education, Banneker continued his education on his own. He borrowed textbooks of every subject from wherever he could, and studied them in his free time. The subjects he enjoyed the most were mathematics and science. He also liked to trade and solve mathematical puzzles. To provide for his family, Banneker continued like this for many years, with his family farm taking precedence over his pursuit of science and mathematics. This changed when Banneker befriended George Ellicott in the early 1770s. George studied science and astronomy and allowed Banneker to borrow resources. With access to more resources, Banneker studied advanced mathematics and astronomy, and began to observe and calculate astronomical events. Banneker also learned the mathematics involved in surveying. With his skills in mathematics, astronomy, and surveying, Banneker assisted Andrew Ellicott in surveying Washington, D.C. After this accomplishment, Banneker became well known and began to fight for civil rights. Banneker also published almanacs, successful almanacs, from 1792 to 1797. Banneker died October 9th, 1806, and during his funeral, his cabin caught on fire and much of his work was destroyed. It is believed by many people that this fire was set intentionally by people who didn't like Banneker's success because he was African American. As I stated earlier, Banneker enjoyed mathematical puzzles. As you can see to the right, this trigonometric mathematical puzzle, which is contained in Banneker's astronomical journal, and can also be found on the Mathematical Association of America's website. The methods Banneker uses to solve this problem are very similar to the methods that he would have used in his astronomy and surveying calculations, except in those Banneker would have used a spherical trigonometry instead. In this problem, Banneker first uses the law of sines to find the unknown side lengths. As you can see from the figure to the left, Banneker used a circle with a radius of 10 million to define trigonometric functions, very different from today, where we use the unit circle. Banneker then took the logarithms and used logarithm tables to approximate values defined by known side lengths. These logarithm tables were very important for astronomy surveying and navigation during Banneker's time, as they allowed faster computation. Therefore, logarithm tables were very important for Banneker's work in astronomy and surveying, as demonstrated by Banneker's solution to his trigonometric puzzle. Benjamin Banneker also contributed to the field of engineering. In 1753, he was given a watch by a friend. Banneker deconstructed and studied the watch. Doing this, he studied the mathematical ratios between the gears, and also attempted to study the properties of time itself in studying the watch, although he was unsuccessful. Banneker took the knowledge that he learned and built a wooden clock which struck every hour, becoming one of the first striking time devices in the United States. Banneker contributed a good deal to astronomy. He collected astronomical data and calculated astronomical events, such as eclipses. Some of these calculations that he made can be found in Banneker's Astronomical Journal. One such one, shown in one of my figures, is his predicted eclipse in Washington, D.C. in 1791. Banneker also clarified mistakes in the works of James Ferguson and Charles Leadbeater, respected astronomers of the time. Banneker also calculated an ephemeris annually, a chart showing the position of astronomical objects at certain times, which was the centerpiece of Banneker's almanacs. Banneker also had the idea of the existence of planets beyond the solar system, being one of the first men to suggest this. Banneker contributed to the development of the United States with his work in surveying. He was selected by Andrew Ellicott to assist in surveying Washington, D.C. because of his skills in mathematics, astronomy, and surveying. Banneker played an important role as he constantly had to calculate their position on the Earth based on the position of the stars. Banneker also had to record the time of measurement as well as keep track of the temperature around the equipment to ensure proper calibration. After the surveying of Washington, D.C. was completed, Banneker became famous as people spread the story of the brilliant African American man. Abolitionists, in particular, spread Banneker's story to support abolition. Banneker's almanacs furthered his fame and displayed his astronomy skills and intellectual abilities. His ephemeris was the centerpiece of his almanacs. The ephemeris was the centerpiece as it was important to merchants and sailors who traversed the Atlantic. And the data contained in the ephemeris was used to determine their position while they were at sea. Banneker's almanacs also contained tide charts and long-term weather forecasts. Banneker used his almanacs as a medium to support racial equality and the abolition of slavery. This can easily be seen from a message in Banneker's 1792 almanac, which states, "Presenting to the public a complete and accurate ephemeris for the year 1792, calculated by a sable descendant of Africa, who, by this specimen of ingenuity, evinces to demonstration that mental powers and endowments are not the exclusive excellence of white people, but that the rays of science may alike illumine the minds of men of every clime." Banneker also included anti-slavery essays within his almanacs. One famous anti-slavery piece included in his almanacs is his correspondence with Thomas Jefferson, in which he argued for equality and the abolition of slavery. Banneker made important contributions to the abolition movement and civil rights. Banneker first fought against the notion that men of African descent did not possess strong mental endowment. He did this first with his achievements in astronomy and mathematics, as well as his achievements in surveying Washington, D.C. Banneker also used his almanacs to support the fight for civil rights, as we just discussed. In 1791, Banneker sent a letter to Thomas Jefferson regarding Jefferson's public comments about black men and slavery, also including a copy of his 1792 almanac as proof of African Americans' intellectual abilities. In this letter, Banneker argues for racial equality and the abolition of slavery using language and logic from the Declaration of Independence. Writing such a letter to a figure like Jefferson was very brave, as Jefferson easily could have punished Banneker for his comments in that time period. Jefferson did not respond violently, however, and instead sent a politically worded letter in response, and also forwarded Banneker's almanacs to the Marquis de Condorcet, the Secretary of the Academy of Sciences in Paris, to display the intellectual abilities of men of African descent. It appears the Marquis never received the almanac, however, due to the French Revolution, which took his life. Nonetheless, Banneker's brilliant abilities were displayed in America and clearly showed the intellectual abilities of African Americans. Banneker's actions assisted the abolition movement and inspired African Americans even today. In addition to civil rights, Banneker has also influenced cultural diversity in mathematics education. Banneker's influence has spanned centuries and continues to inspire some African Americans to pursue higher education today. This is shown by some modern-day groups and organizations that pursue cultural diversity. For example, the Benjamin Banneker Association, which advocates mathematics education for African Americans. In conclusion, Benjamin Banneker was the first African American astronomer and mathematician. He contributed to numerous fields with his work in applied mathematics, astronomy, engineering, and surveying. Banneker also had a big impact on the fight for civil rights and cultural diversity in mathematics education. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them in the comments section below.